Someone on TikTok is actually building a 10-foot animatronic rabbit and says it can run faster than you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Progress Report number 24.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? You guys know what we like to do here, man. We break down scary and creepy videos that's gonna make us question everything. Found these videos for you guys today. Let's dive on in.
A mother taking her own son's life with the help of his girlfriend. It kind of sounds like something out of a movie. The story begins in 2021 when Alessandro Venier traveled from Italy to the city of Barranquilla in Colombia for vacation, and while he was there, he met Mylene Castro Monsalvo. And of course, at first, like any relationship, things were great and everything seemed perfect. But after Mylene moved to Italy, it wasn't long until their dynamic started to shift. Mylene accused Alessandro of abuse. As time went on, this also turned into death threats. Mylene said that Alessandro began threatening her life and their baby as well. He told her that he was going to drown her in a river in Colombia and that no one would ever find out. Mylene was terrified, and so she confided in her mother-in-law, Alessandro's mother, 61-year-old Lorena Venier. So now that Lorena knows about the abuse, the threats from her son, she comes up with this insane plan. On the night of July 25th, 2025, Lorena and Mylene spiked a glass of lemonade with a tranquilizer, hoping Alessandro would drink it and pass out. And that's exactly what happened, because Alessandro finished an entire glass, and after Alessandro was pretty much knocked out from the spiked lemonade, his mother injected him with multiple doses of insulin. While Alessandro was practically unconscious, his mother and girlfriend smothered him with a pillow and then strangled him with his own shoelaces. That's when Lorena decides to use a hacksaw to cut her son's body into 3 parts.
The monster can see you through your webcam when you're playing this game. You literally have to move out of its line of sight if it's near you. And while you're doing this, you can't even move your character. The game is called Eyes Never Wake, and right now it's one of my most anticipated horror games just based on the concept alone. The game starts with a face calibration to make sure you're actually using a webcam. And then based on the trailer, it comes down to a game of cat and mouse. We've played games where the monster can hear you through your mic, but this is just a whole new level. Would you play a horror game like this? Or maybe you'd rather watch me play a horror game like this? It's not out yet, but when it comes out, I will absolutely be playing it.
This is Abigail making.
Should I check that
I'm
out,
going to be the
Sneakers?
one to make the comparison. Yes, there are some things that make these movies very similar, which I'm not going to lie, at the beginning scared me, because as you guys know, I was not a huge fan of Megan. I didn't think there was anything scary about a TikTok dancing robot who unalives people with katanas. Just wasn't my thing. But I guess when the movie bases around a vampire dancing ballerina, it makes it a little bit better. But I can be honest, there are a few scenes where she is doing ballerina dances while unaliving people. She has to super similar to Megan. That's the only similarity. Because other than that, this movie was fantastic. I would almost venture to call it a horror comedy. Because the dialogue between all of the characters and the synergistic way they all play a role is hilarious. The arguments. Even the way Abigail is unaliving some of these people is just hilarious. If you're wondering, yes, you still get that horror vibe. There are still jumps here. As I said, I would almost venture to call it a horror comedy. Because she's literally toying with them. Of course, stars characters like Melissa Barrera and the late Angus Cloud. But this might be the funniest scene in the whole entire film. I'm not going to spoil anything, but once they find out Abigail is actually Dracula's daughter and she's standing on all kinds of business, it is just genuinely hilarious. The way they act is just so funny because they have no idea what to do. They're mercenaries. They're not vampire hunters. Like and follow for more.
Okay. I think I heard about the movie Abigail too. Never seen it though. Yeah, I know this, man. I'm not into scary movies like that. Who was that? Walking to the garage. You did the right thing.
Someone on TikTok is actually building a 10-foot animatronic rabbit and says it can run faster than you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Progress Report number 24.
This is Nosy, the creation of TikTok user Citra. He's been posting progress reports since June showing massive hands, legs, and a terrifying rabbit-like head. He claims that when it's finished, Nosy will be waterproof, fireproof, bulletproof, and be able to sprint at 32 miles per hour. You know what's even worse? It's designed to move silently, so you'll have no idea when Nosy is coming. The internet is obsessed with Nosy, and just from this one update, it pulled in 23 million views and over 2 million followers just for this project. Fans say it looks like something straight out of Five Nights at Freddy's or the Walton Files. But engineers online aren't convinced. They argue that the science doesn't add up and a machine this big can be fireproof, waterproof, and be able to move that fast. Still, whether it's a hoax or a prop, it's enough to freak me out. And here's the real question: what should you do if you ever see Nosy in the wild? First, don't ever try to outrun it because it's supposedly faster than you. Second, don't hide in the dark, it's designed to move silently. Third, your best bet, stay in the open, keep your distance, and hope Nosy is only a prop. Because if it's not, you're living in a real-life horror game.
This is all the latest
I'm
news
hitting
in
the
the UK.
jets. Sorry.
10, 60 seconds. If you have a best friend, you can say goodbye. Honestly, should we leave? Yep, it's now banned in UK schools to have a best friend. So they ban A-levels and say we have to stay in school doing maths and English till we're 18. They're trying to ban flipping school holidays. No, you can't even have a best friend. Yeah, apparently having a best friend is extremely harmful and detrimental to young kids' health. NASA has urged the UK to search for the Loch Ness Monster again. Why? I don't know. But from the 30th of May to the 2nd of June, so not very long, NASA, along with research teams in Scotland, will be searching Loch Ness for the Loch Ness Monster again. Could NASA be doing better things? Probably. Is there a Loch Ness Monster? Probably not. The Rwanda bill is becoming law this Thursday, apparently. Will it? Who knows? Ryanair CEO stepped forward and said that he will use his planes to take these people to Rwanda. This is, of course, to tackle illegal migration, but the government are still wanting to put money into paying influencers to tell people not to come to the UK, so we'll see if that works. Baba Vanga, the famous mystic who has predicted lots of things correctly, her predictions are starting to come true in the UK now as well, such as us being in a recession and the huge economic crisis which she predicted for 2024. Did she predict it, or are we all just stupid? As always, I'll keep you updated on all the latest stuff, so add me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Morbid Facts,
Crazy.
Part 304. 28-year-old Brittany Zamora was an award-winning elementary school attorney blamed the student for the teacher's crimes, arguing that the boy was a teenager, not a child. A woman from Germany was sentenced to 7 years in prison after dropping her newborn baby daughter out of her apartment window. She apparently thought that having a child would ruin her career as an executive for Porsche. In 1996, Charles Whitman murdered 17 people with a sniper at the University of Texas before being killed by police. In a note he left behind, Whitman requested an autopsy since he felt something was seriously wrong with his brain. He'd been having severe fits of rage that he'd never experienced before and could not explain. The autopsy found that Whitman had a small tumor pressing up against his amygdala, the part of the brain that regulates fear and aggression. This likely contributed to his sudden erratic behavior.
The Smurl family home was once considered to be the most haunted house in America. A lot of people are talking about this because it's most recently been dramatized in the new Conjuring movie. But the real story behind this house dates back to the 1970s. This was when Jack and Janet Smurl had moved into a new home because they were hit by a hurricane, so they really needed something cheap. So their family ended up finding this duplex in Pittston, Pennsylvania, and they all moved in, but it wasn't long until they started to experience something off. The house gained widespread notoriety because of unexplained things going missing, objects moving, and sightings of a shadow figure. This is one of the eeriest things that was documented during the investigation of the home. And it wasn't even just the Smurl family that saw this, the neighbors saw it too. Something really interesting about the case I was reading up on was that the father actually claimed he was sexually assaulted by whatever was in that house. And in one of the rarer turns in this case, even the Vatican got involved in a sanctioned exorcism. That is exceedingly rare. It almost never happens.
Somebody just told me that this snail
Okay.
is one of the deadliest creatures on the planet. I call it bullshit.
A snail? That does sound like BS. But it's not. Meet the freshwater snail. Now this might sound crazy, but these bad boys are responsible for turning more people past tense than elephants, hippos, tigers, lions, and crocodiles.
How?
Combined. You see, these snails live in big open bodies of water, and they have these parasitic worms attached to them. When it's time to reproduce, these worms will detach from the snail and go look for a new host to lay their eggs in, being you. And all you have to do is enter the water. They can make it into your body simply by contact. It's some bull. Not to mention, once they're in your body, they'll navigate their way to your blood vessels, where they can live for decades. But that's not the problem. It's when they lay eggs that becomes a problem. Their eggs are really sharp, like barbed wire. And the purpose of the eggs are to make it out of your body back into the water. But sometimes it's not that easy, and these eggs will get lodged in your body, causing a condition known as schistosomiasis. And this condition is what's going to put you on the news. Moral of the story, if you're ever swimming in a body of fresh water, just be careful of the slimiest acid. And as always, Follow for more facts.
This
Don't
woman
catch
was
me in
left
that.
blind after her ex threw acid on her face, but then she forgave him and then married him. This is the story of Berfine Ozek. She was 18 years old when her ex-boyfriend threw acid on her face after she ended their relationship. Kasim Ozan had threatened Berfine multiple times before, but on January 2019, he waited until she left her house and he attacked her. She suffered severe burns, permanent disfigurement, as you can see in these photos, and she lost her vision in one eye. Kasim was arrested and was sentenced to 13 years and 6 months in prison. And Berfine initially testified against him, but things quickly changed. Absolutely no one expected this, but while Kasim was in prison, he wrote letters to Berfine. He apologized and expressed his love for her. And that's when eventually Berfine withdrew her complaint and stated that she still loved him and that she forgave him. Then in 2021, Kasim was released from prison early, and a year later, Berfine and Kasim got married. And of course, people were so upset and even concerned that this woman was being manipulated, and others just thought that she settled with this man because no one else would love her because of how she looked. Her own family also tried to stop her from marrying this evil man, but she insisted, and apparently they cut ties with her.
Could you guys forget something like that, man? Threw acid on your face and you end up marrying them a year later? That couldn't be me. But everybody's different. Somebody chasing after him those stairs. He hit the jets. He said, I'm out.
What is the secret behind the mysterious cult in No, I'm Not a Human? And what does it have to do with the hole in your basement? We're going to talk about their secret, the god they worship, and the ending associated with their story. Of course, massive spoilers ahead. I have a full playthrough of this game on my channel with like 5 different endings, so check that out if you're interested. The events of No, I'm Not a Human cause a lot of strange things to happen. People start panicking, some become vigilantes that just kill anyone they see, and a cult also emerges that worships death. During one of the nights, this man visits your door, and he is a cult leader. He asks you to watch over his flock, and he gives you 3 of his members to stay in your home. So for the next several days, you have to keep each of these cult members alive. Now, this is very challenging to do since many visitors end up coming to your home. If you manage to keep all 3 alive, though, when the cult leader returns, he makes you a crazy offer. He offers you to join the cult, and you can accept. If you do, you embrace death like all of the other members. When I was first playing this game, I thought this was a way for the cult members to cope with inevitable death from the apocalypse. But no, their god of death is actually real in the game. In one of the other endings, you can actually dig a hole in your basement. And when you dig deep enough, it brings you down to a strange pit. And at the bottom of that pit is death. Yes, the god of death is actually real, and she exists under your home. You can also talk to her, and if you do, she gives you the release that all the cult members were chasing. Not heaven, hell, or any sort of afterlife, an existence of perfect, peaceful isolation away from everybody else. It's actually kind of a beautiful ending after the events of the game.
If you've ever seen this man, you may be cursed. So around 2009, a man by the name of Jacob Fairchild was doing a human experiment in an old insane asylum. The experiment was to see if the subjects could stay awake for an entire month playing a computer game that he designed. But the people that were doing this experiment were not heard from afterwards. Jacob was apparently losing his mind while conducting this experiment. He started wearing a mask covered in eyes, calling himself the Timekeeper. This is an image that a former staff member had drawn of him. Eventually, legend has it, he went so crazy he locked everyone inside the facility and burned it down, killing everyone. But as the place was burning down, it was the only thing not damaged by the fire. Recently, it's been reported that the game Jacob created has been randomly resurfacing on people's computers. To this day, 2 of the teens that reported playing the game have died, 3 have gone missing, and 1 reported seeing this person upon starting the game. And no one who has ever played the game has won.
3 American things that the British just do not understand. At number 3, why is your food so humongous? How can you even eat this much food? This geezer can't even put his chopper around the burger. Look at a normal burger from the UK, and you look at one from the USA, and you wonder why there's so many obese people over there. Fact. And number 2, pricing. The price here says $349, so I think I'm paying $349. But when I get to the till, it's now $379. You need to sort this out. Just be like the UK, man. The price we see is the price we pay. And at number 1, easy cheese. What even is this? Because I'm telling you now, this ain't cheese. You should never be squirting cheese out of a can. Makes me think, is this the stuff your president uses on his face?
What the heck?
I'd be dead, I think, right? I mean, he's not wrong. That thing is basically a swimming pain inducer. Let me explain. Meet the Portuguese man award. Now, at first glance, it looks like a jellyfish, but it's not at all. In fact, technically, this isn't even just one creature. This whole creature is actually a colony of smaller creatures known as zooids, coming together and living as one unit. And they form this highly venomous bag of problems. You see that little bubble? That's their flotation device. That's how they get across the ocean. That is safe to touch. However, underneath that are these tentacles that can get up to 150 feet long. Ooh. Those are not safe to touch. That's where the stingers are. And a sting by one of them will cause severe pain, swelling, this lightning-like scarring, and potentially a meeting with your maker. The ocean's so fun. In other words, that is one dangerous creature, or society. Moral of the story, if you're ever on the beach and you see one of these, look, but don't touch. Trust me. You'll thank me later. And as always, follow for more facts.
More facts, part 305. In 1996, 14-year-old Barry Lukaitis opened fire on his high school algebra class in Washington State, killing 2 fellow students and the teacher. As his classmates were panicking, Barry was quoted saying, "This sure beats the hell out of algebra, doesn't it?" He's currently serving out a 189-year prison sentence for the murders. In 1982, 28-year-old fencing legend Vladimir Smirnov was killed at the World Fencing Championship when a broken foil pierced his mask, entered his eye socket, and penetrated his brain. The incident is why fencing uniforms now require Kevlar as a standard. In 2017, a 13-year-old boy died after his classmate threw a piece of cheese at him. The boy suffered from multiple severe allergies, including dairy, and was sent into anaphylactic shock soon after the cheese made contact with his neck. The classmate told authorities that he was only playing around and didn't realize that the boy suffered from a severe allergy.
Was Rogelio Andaverde abducted? Stay tuned to find out. 34-year-old Andaverde said he was abducted by 2 men in Edinburgh, Texas. His wife, obviously frightened, called the cops. Nobody could find him. However, 2 days later, he turned up to the home, unarmed and not missing anymore. So what exactly happened here? Investigators got heavily involved in this because the wife filed a missing persons report, and what they found was crazy. It turned out he had staged his own abduction to go out and party with his friends. This guy was on a 2-day bender, and he staged his own abduction to do that. He claims he did this because he was afraid of his wife and what she would say or do. And this was a crazy setup too. So this happened back in 2013. His friends literally broke into the house with guns and everything. There was a whole search with helicopters and a ton of sheriffs as well. Because of all this, he actually had to serve 19 days in jail. I mean, that's valid. His wife was probably scared like crazy. But this might be one of the craziest true crime cases I've ever covered. It takes a lot of effort to stage something like this. Kind of insane. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section below. If you were his wife, what would you do?
Bro, faked an abduction, man, just because he was on a bender. So he was capping, bro, the whole time. He only did 19 days. Could have been more. Tell the truth, man.
After dating a Backstreet Boy, this school teacher lured a teenage boy into her car. The story starts way back in 1995 when Deborah LaFave attended East Bay High School in Florida. Her first boyfriend was Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys, and they dated for about a year before she ended up cheating on him with a girl and they broke up. She then went on a couple of years later to become a glamour model for a magazine called Makes and Models, but she had aspirations of becoming a teacher. She graduated college in 2002 and got a job at the Greco Middle School in Temple Terrace in Florida, and shortly after married a guy called Owen LaFave. But Owen had no idea what he was letting himself in for and what kind of woman Deborah was. Now, he was pretty suspicious actually that she was having some kind of affair, but he was actually thinking that it was probably with a colleague at the school, not one of the young students. It was June 2004 that this whole sick situation started to unravel. Now, bear in mind this student was 14 years old and I obviously can't name him for legal reasons. The boy's mum just started to feel like something was off. She'd noticed that Deborah, the teacher, had been wearing really inappropriate outfits to teach these students. She was in like mini skirts and she also seemed to be giving them a lot of attention. And her son seemed to be spending more and more time communicating with her, which was just so strange. Like, why does a 23-year-old woman need to be texting a 14-year-old schoolboy? Turns out that this boy and Deborah had got close on a school trip to SeaWorld Orlando, and she was just pushing so many boundaries. She was like almost pushing and pushing and pushing until things were just so inappropriate. At one point she gave this boy detention, but this was just a total excuse to get him on his own. When he did come into her class, she exposed herself to him and kissed him. And things really escalated to a sickening degree. It's believed that she had both S and OS with this child on 4 occasions. Once this was even at her marital home that she shared with Owen. I don't know where the hell Owen was. This also happened in her classroom and in the back seat of her car. All of this ended up coming out. As I said, the mum was suspicious anyway, but I believe a family member ended up spotting the pair of them out together and told the mum. And this all just came out when the mum confronted the little boy. She was horrified. She was like fully grilling him, and he just admitted everything. He even obviously had like text messages to prove what had been going on. He immediately rang the police, and they took a statement from this little boy and just confirmed everything that the mum had feared. They ended up even getting the boy to communicate with Deborah and secretly recorded their conversation. And the next part is crazy. Her defense in court said that she would be too pretty to send to prison. Apparently she didn't view herself as a criminal because she said she was in love with this boy. She obviously got banned from teaching ever again, but got absolutely 0 prison time. She was arrested again actually in 2007 for violating her probation by speaking to a 17-year-old restaurant worker, but I don't think anything came of that.
These 3 facts will...
The fact that the defense says she's pretty to go to jail, bro. People were just saying anything, man, to keep them out. That's one of the crazy things we've heard yet.
Ruin your day. Number 3. You know when you go swimming and you open your eyes underwater and they go bloodshot red? Well, don't be fooled, because this isn't just from the chlorine. They actually go red from the chemical mixture from chlorine and urine. So I hate to say it, guys, but you've got someone wee in your eyes. Number 2. I want you to think back to as far as you can remember. There was a stage in your life where your parents picked you up, put you down, and then never picked you up again. And after that, these loving moments, gone. And at number 1, right now the world population is at its peak of being the most obese it has ever been. We're a bunch of fatties. But somehow, there's still world hunger, and 40% of all food still goes to waste. Brighten up someone's day by sharing this message, and follow for more.
This is all the latest breaking news in the UK, but in 60 seconds. 13-year-old boy has passed away, now officially banning best friends in UK schools. What? What do you mean? Yet, some schools have already decided to ban having a best friend, and others are starting to bring this into place. It's still trying to ban school holidays or cut them down, so yeah, if you're still in school, I'm sorry. In Wales, they are officially going to make it a criminal conviction to lie. This is just for MPs and people in Parliament. But people are saying, oh, this is going to happen to the general public. Is it? Probably not, but I'll let you know. And this Thursday, so 2 days' time, is officially the day the Rwanda bill becomes law. This is, of course, an effort to tackle on the illegal immigration. I do these roundups every day, so make sure you hit that follow button, and I'll see you tomorrow.
The world's most dangerous conspiracy theories. This picture represents conspiracy theories from the most well-known to the darkest. Some of these theories say once you learn the truth, there's no return. For this series, we're going to be picking some from each category until we reach Tier 10, the point of no return. Tier 10 is so scary that some people are saying that I will die before I even reach Tier 10. Okay, Tier 1. Today we're going to be talking about cryptozoology. Cryptozoology is defined as the search for animals whose existence is disputed. For example, Bigfoot, Chupacabra, and the Loch Ness Monster. For this one, I want to talk about the Ningen. The Ningen is based in Japan. It's an aquatic humanoid creature that can be larger than a whale but also mutate into a human. I know what you're thinking. No way this is real. I thought the same thing until I saw this. In 2007, a company published a magazine with Ningens on the cover. The magazines were completely destroyed with no trace, but I found the PDF file of what it looked like. It gets even weirder. Early February 2013, a huge mysterious object washes ashore that makes locals freak out. 3 days later, the website was taken down without a trace. Doing some more research, I found out that people from Japan created a forum page talking about all of the government corruption that was happening. They then began to speak on the Ningen, and somebody says that he was on the research ship when they captured it on camera, and then government officials raided the boat and even supposedly killing some of the people. 3 days later, the forum page was taken down without a trace, but I found it once again, and take a look at one of the videos somebody posted.
Alright. Oh, we saw someone go up that stairs. Right there, slow-mo, bro. Dope slow.
So what do you think? Is this Ningen just some myth, or is the government hiding something much darker? This was only Tier 1. Make sure to follow to see Tier 2 because we have a lot more to cover.
You definitely saw that, right? I don't know if that was like could have been fake. I don't know, somebody made like that off their phone or something like that. Looked pretty real to me though.
She helped to solve her own murder beyond the grave. It was the 28th of April in 2010 in Clayton County, Georgia. Now, Candice Parchment was a 15-year-old student who lived with her mum, and as you can see from the photo, she's absolutely stunning. She went to Forest Park High School and was extremely liked. She had this gorgeous smile, and she was just such a confident girl. She was also very family-oriented and, like me, really close with her mum. So it was really weird when she didn't come home one day, and her mum immediately knew something was wrong. So she rang up the police and she told them, this is just not like my daughter, she always comes home. She wasn't answering her phone and she always answered to her mum. But really infuriatingly, the police just didn't take this case seriously. They were like, oh yeah, she's probably just run away. What do you mean she's probably just run away? But here's the really weird part. Her mum then got a couple of random texts off her phone and they were really blunt. She just knew. You know when you like know how somebody texts? I bet you guys have got like friends and family members and you just would know if somebody was using their phone and it wasn't them. The one text said, I'm in Tennessee, and the other one just said, I'm okay. Like, that wasn't how Candice spoke. And her mum knew that, well, if it's not Candice using her own phone, she can't get hold of Candice, then she's definitely not okay. So the mum was doing, like, typical mum things in this situation. She was just hunting high and low, driving all around, looking everywhere she could for Candice, and she couldn't find her anywhere. Months and months rumbled on with absolutely no sign of her. I just can't imagine. But then a shocking discovery in November 2010. Under a mattress behind a dumpster were Candice's clothes and her body. Horrifically, she'd been there so long and was so decomposed that she was essentially a skeleton. She had to be identified by those clothes that they found. And I've heard in some cases that relatives say how heartbreaking it is to realise that your loved one has been laid dead somewhere for ages and you just didn't know. Like, I can totally imagine how upsetting that would have been. Even though the person is dead, you still can't even envisage the thought of them just being out there on their own. Police finally decided to start bloody investigating this now. I mean, she's clearly not a runaway, for God's sake. But sadly, the crime scene pretty much didn't have any clues as to who could have done this. With her being so decomposed, it was really difficult to even determine a cause of death. The only slight clue was that her remains were located near an apartment block, so police started wondering if the killer had something to do with that apartment block. But frustratingly, the case really did kind of grind to a halt. They didn't really have anything else to go off of until the following year when Candice's mum was actually moving house. She understandably just wanted to get away from the area where her daughter was found dead, so she was packing up boxes in the house, she was like putting stuff away, and she came across Candice's diary. And when she read this, she immediately rang police. She was like, you've got to see what is in this diary. One entry prior to Candice's murder revealed she had been the victim of a terrifying attack where she'd actually feared for her life. This was at the hands of Marche Hickman and Jermaine Robinson in January 2010, so very shortly before, in the grand scheme of things, before she was murdered. They tried to her in an abandoned house, which just sounds absolutely horrific. The diary said Jermaine hit her in the head with a rake and Marche blocked the door. They choked her and tried to unzip her clothes. Bear in mind, this is not only but this girl at the time was 15. I believe these guys at this point were around 18, 19. She's thankfully been able to fight back and escape, but she was absolutely terrified and obviously thought she was going to die. This now gave police both suspects and a potential motive. You know, did they want to murder her to shut her up, basically? Marche, at this point, was actually in prison for burglary charges. Investigators got both of these men for questioning, and they basically both turned on each other. It's pretty funny how this happens sometimes. Jermaine decided to testify against Marche, and Marche pleaded guilty to the murder and was sentenced to life in prison without parole plus 20 years. Also got an additional 50 years for attacking Candice and trying to kill her back in 2010. Jermaine got 15 years for the attempted SA on Candice that she documented in her own diary. So she basically got justice from the grave.
People who are 1 in a million. Part 2. This is Gary Turner, but he's better known as the Elastic Man. He has a medical condition that causes his skin to be so stretchy that he can stretch the skin from his neck over his mouth. Next is Nanya Su, who's a boy with perfect night vision. His parents both have brown eyes, but he has blue eyes that glow when a light is shined. He claims that it's hard to see during the day, but while everyone sees this at night, this is what he sees. This is Paul Carrison, the real-life Papa Smurf. To fix his skin condition, he would drink silver and rub it on his skin every day, causing him to turn irreversibly blue. Finally, this man came into the hospital with severe chest pain, and doctors were shocked when they discovered he had 2 hearts, and he had suffered a double heart attack.
This truck driver took the life of 5 people because he was distracted on TikTok. The morning of January 12, 2023, 36-year-old Danny Tyner was driving on Interstate 10 in Arizona when he drove his tractor trailer in to stop the traffic. This scene is so difficult to look at, but basically his truck sandwiched 2 other cars with another big truck at the front. These are the 5 victims that lost their lives on that day, and when Danny was asked what happened, he said that he looked down for a couple of seconds because he got a notification on his work tablet, and when he looked back up, there was not enough time to brake. But that wasn't true. When his phone was analyzed, it showed that he was actively using TikTok when the crash happened. Now, what I found disturbing was that during his interaction with police, he didn't seem too fazed. He was eventually charged with manslaughter and was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison for each count of negligent homicide, which totaled to 22.5 years.
This is the tragedy.
Man, I'm telling you guys, when you out driving, man, just do not be informed, man. Like I said, social media is a distraction, man. That's basically what it was made for. So why would you even attempt to even like look at it while you're driving, bro? That's just doesn't make sense to me. Look at the result of what happened, man. Multiple senses, man, because you just wanted to scroll on TikTok, man. TikTok cannot be, well, we know it's that addicting, man, where you just want to keep scrolling and scrolling, but you drive and you don't have that luxury.
Tragic story of the Boy Scout who made his entire neighborhood radioactive. Nicknamed the Nuclear Boy Scout, David Hahn was a teenager from Michigan who was obsessed with nuclear radiation. When he was only 15, David attempted to build a nuclear reactor in his backyard shed, using radioactive material from household items including vintage clocks, smoke detectors, and gun sights. Within 2 years, David had built a functioning reactor which gave off enough radiation to be detected throughout his entire neighborhood.
Damn.
David was soon caught by police when they found hazardous materials in his car during a routine stop and thought he was building an atomic bomb. When David's shed was raided by the EPA, they determined that his project had created dangerous levels of radiation, leading them to dismantle the building and classify it as hazardous waste. This mugshot from 2006 shows David covered in sores as a result of his extensive exposure to radiation. This, combined with continuous legal and mental health issues, led to David's early passing at the age of 39 from an accidental overdose.
Wanted to become like Adam Man or something.
Superpowers, Part 2. The super coffee drinker, BDNF. Carriers of this gene remain completely unaffected to the effects of caffeine from coffee, and can often easily get a night's sleep after drinking a cup. The perfect memory gene, HSAM. If you are lucky enough to be born with this gene, you will have almost a perfect memory. However, it's extremely rare with only 25 confirmed cases. The super sprinter gene, ACTN3. People with these genes are able to run extra fast, as these genetics give your muscles a higher flexing rate, which gives them more explosive power.
Speed
the
got that.
immunity gene, ALDH2. Having this super rare gene will mean you will never be able to experience being drunk with your friends, and you might have a lot of explaining to do, as it gives you total immunity from the effects of being drunk.
Imagine if everybody had that, the world would be a safer place, man. Everybody's immune to alcohol. Woo. And the speed definitely got the freaking sprinter gene, bro. I know what I'm talking about. He's too fast. That's the only explanation.
This is how rare your body is compared to the rest of the world. Only 10% of people have something called Darwin's tubercle. It's this little bump on the outside of your ear. And it's said that people who have this are better at sensing voice tonality. 10% of people also have what's called Morton's toe. This is where your big toe is shorter than the toe next to it. Only 26% of people have a narrator inside their head. Most people don't hear a voice when they think. What's even more rare is only 5% of people have their tongues tied to their mouth. I thought everyone had this. Everyone flares their nostrils subconsciously, but only 30% of people can do it on command. Less than 1% of people have unbreakable bones, making you basically superhuman. Only about 35% of people can gleek, and only 1% can do it on command. And gleeking is when you squirt saliva from underneath your tongue.
Any secrets can you guys gleek, bro? I've seen that before. I've always wanted to know what that was, man. I finally got an answer. It's called gleeking, bro. Shoot saliva through your tongue. That's a very, I guess, rare skill set. You got any gleekers, man, in the comments? Oh, that's insane, bro.
This incident has made people on the internet so upset because this woman went up to a teen and pulled down her skirt because she thought it was too short. Even if you think this skirt is too short, I think we can all agree that you cannot go up to a child and touch them. The teen said that this woman approached her from behind and basically put her hand in her area. This woman, who's a 49-year-old Ida Lorenzo, said to the girl and her friends, "I happen to work for the state, and if I have to see your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS."
I happen to work for the state, and if I have to watch your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS.
Now, let's be real for a second. If this was a man who did this to a young girl, police would be called immediately and there would be no excuses. They were waiting at a restaurant to be seated and she basically felt like it was inappropriate for this young girl to be dressed like this in front of everyone. Which, if you feel that way, then you can leave. You should never be putting your hands on anyone. She was eventually charged with sexual battery, which I'm glad, because you can't be putting your hands on anyone, especially kids.
People who are 1 in a million.
Explained
This
it
girl's
perfectly.
name is Zhang Rufeng, and she is over 100 years old. But a few years ago, something strange happened. She started growing a horn on her head. At first, it started off small, but now it's grown up to 6 centimeters in length. But the craziest part is, she's actually starting to grow a second horn on the other side. And doctors have offered to remove it from her head, but she refuses. Before I show you the craziest one, I just found a way you can find your celebrity lookalike, and apparently I look like Mr. Beast. If you want to know who your celebrity lookalike is, just press this link in the comments. Next up is Nang Yasoi, and he has perfect night vision. And the strange part about this is both his parents have brown eyes, but he has blue eyes. When everyone else sees darkness, he sees perfectly in the middle of the night.
The rarest things found on Earth. This is a red diamond, and it is one of the rarest material known to man. Because of that, they are way more expensive than normal diamonds. This tiny one is worth around $25 million.
Damn.
And this is a corpse flower. It's basically a giant flower that smells like rotting flesh, and it can only be found in remote areas in Indonesia. Imagine having one of these in your garden. And this small and beautiful sea creature is a blue dragon. It's only a few inches big, but it eats deadly jellyfish every day for food.
The more you know. I want that freaking red diamond.
A Russian scientist
find
injected
it.
himself with this ancient bacteria to see what would happen. Dr. Anatoly Brushkov discovered bacteria deep within the permafrost of Siberia that was 3.5 million years old, and somehow it was still alive. It was named Bacillus F, and after doing some experiments on it, he realized the bacteria not only seemed to be immune to aging, but also appeared to have a life-extending effect on almost every organism it touched. He tested the strain on female mice who were able to continue reproducing into old age, much older than the average mice could, and when he exposed it to crops, they grew faster and were more frost resistant. The town of Yakut, Siberia, close to where this bacteria was found, also happens to be one of the coldest human settlements on Earth, with their population reporting longer lifespans than average humans, perhaps due to Bacillus F leaking into their water supply. Dr. Brushkov was so convinced he said "fuck it" and injected himself with the ancient bacterium to test it out firsthand. 2 years later, he reported dramatic improvements to his general health, claiming to need less sleep, working longer hours, and just having more energy in his day-to-day life. He also allegedly hasn't gotten sick since he injected himself with it, with him and his colleagues starting to call it the elixir of life. Dr. Brushkov did this in 2013 and claims to be in the best health of his life today. And I'm sure Big Pharma loves the idea of a miracle life potion that would potentially lose them billions of dollars a year in revenue, so we definitely should not question any articles that debunk this find. To be fair, these effects aren't exactly 100% confirmed and could very well be a placebo effect, but that sure didn't stop others from hopping on the Bacillus F bandwagon. German actress Manouche began self-medicating the bacteria and reported being able to go for longer runs, feeling less cold in the winter, and her skin just feeling softer and younger. Brushkov and his team insist the effects of Bacillus F are clear and significant, although they admit they're not yet sure why it has the effect it does. But if they can manage to isolate the gene responsible for the positive benefits of the bacteria, they may have just discovered the ultimate elixir of life. As long as there isn't, you know, a whole ass industry with infinite money that tries to stop it.
The elixir of life. I gotta believe that, man. Like I said, it could be a placebo effect, but I mean, if you can inject yourself with like 1 million years old bacteria, you have to be pretty sure to do that. I'm definitely going to have to check that out. Go down that rabbit hole.
Weirdest kids' toys ever, Part 51. Mr. Bucket, released in 1990, discontinued twice and brought back. But what was the problem? Well, the shape of the mouth didn't help. But the only thing they actually changed were the words in the jingle. A certain part they decided to cut out.
I'm Mr. Bucket. I'm Mr. Bucket. Toss your balls in my top. I'm Mr. Bucket. Out of my mouth and mouth.
Extinct animals, scientists are close to reviving. Firstly, the woolly mammoth. It was believed to have gone extinct 25,000 years ago, but scientists discovered hundreds that just died recently. So they're planning to put its DNA inside African elephants, and they expect to bring them back in the next 5 years. Next, dodo birds were hunted to extinction 400 years ago, but a preserved head was recently discovered. By mixing that DNA with a maned pigeon, dodo birds should be coming back in 15 years. Finally, expect to see saber-toothed tigers outside soon, because scientists discovered DNA preserved in tar pits, and they plan to combine it with African lions. So this 10-inch toothed beast should be coming back in 10 years.
That's throwing off the environment, man. They shouldn't be doing that.
Never slice tomatoes this way. So when this guy noticed that his boss was slicing tomatoes one by one, wasting a lot of time, he decided to show him a trick that everyone should know. He took a plate, put a few tomatoes on it, covered them with another plate, and in one move, he sliced more tomatoes than his boss in an hour.
Have you ever seen a Mickey
insane,
Mouse
man.
gas mask? These were made to calm terrified children. About a month after Pearl Harbor, Walt Disney was in Washington, D.C. to design and discuss Mickey Mouse gas masks for children. 1,000 of these were produced and given away to key members of Congress to help support the project. At the time, President Roosevelt even received one. Walt Disney also came up with drawing designs for Pluto and Three Little Pigs gas masks, although these ones never reached production. They attempted to keep the fun element in something as grim as gas raids. During these raids, children would be persuaded to regard the whole thing as a game.
That's crazy, man. Like a freaking Mickey Mouse gas mask? Makes you wonder, man, what other freaking, I guess, companies and stuff made things in that time. But like I said, there was only 1,000 of them, so obviously it was a limited number. That was just a dark time, man, in history. Kids had to think it was a game.
Curtain number one.
That's an edit.
You don't remember what she looks like.
Call them out.
Here are the craziest things to ever happen at Walmart. So one day, an 18-year-old was craving milk. So he decided to steal not one, not two, but 26 gallons of milk from Walmart. Oh, and he did this dressed as a cow. And if that doesn't sound weird enough to you, you'd be surprised to learn that even though he made himself stand out in the cow costume, he managed to not get caught on the spot. Next, on Black Friday in 2013, a customer and his son were freaking out in Walmart because they thought that his ex-wife was possessed by a demon. And so they locked her in their car and set up an exorcism in the parking lot by throwing sacred oil at her, which might have been the reason why they ended up divorcing. Also, back in 2013, a 16-year-old was going into labor, and she gave birth in a Cannon City Walmart bathroom. Now, there was panic for a moment because the baby wasn't breathing, but luckily, one of the store's employees were CPR certified and they revived the baby. I guess Walmart really can help you live better. And finally, in 2011, at a Walmart in South Carolina, customers witnessed a man named Avery Blandon end the life of his wife, Lilia Blandon, while she was working inside the store's bank. Avery stabbed her multiple times, and she sadly passed away on the way to the hospital. He then tried to escape the scene, but he crashed his SUV and was caught by police. But what's weird is that the store stayed open during the investigation. only in Walmart.
Did you guys see this
They do
video
not
of
care,
these two planes
man.
that almost crashed into each other in midair? It was all caught by this police officer's dash cam. This all happened last month in Syracuse, New York, when a Delta airplane was cleared to take off, while at the same time an American airline airplane was cleared to land in the same runway. So the Delta airplane was on its way to LaGuardia Airport while the American airline plane was arriving from Washington Reagan Airport. What's crazy is that these two planes were only 725 feet away from each other in the air, but from the ground's point of view, they looked so much closer. At one point, the two planes were side by side, and that should not be happening for obvious reasons, which is why the job of an air traffic controller is so important. This error was completely on the air traffic controller, who shouldn't have cleared both airplanes at the same time. It's still unclear why and how this happened, but they're still investigating. Thankfully, both planes did not collide, and all 159 passengers are safe.
It's official.
That's insane to think about, man. Like, they were literally like that close. Like, there's like a hair off if something happened, man. Like she said, it was the air trafficker's job. That they need to, whoever's there that day, they have to get their freaking job reviewed or something like that, because they obviously was not paying attention. Flights, man. One of the most scariest things, man, that can happen. Fun fact, I've never been on an airplane before yet. I've never flown yet, so that just raises my anxiety.
Aliens exist. These are the remains of non-human creatures. They were presented to a hearing in Mexico's Congress, which is investigating unidentified anomalous phenomena. The hearing was told that the specimens were found in Peru in 2017 and apparently are 700 and 1800 years old. People online were quick to compare the likeness to that of E.T. from the movie. One user wrote, "No way, they can't be that small. Those are mutated cats." But looking at a picture that was released of their skull, this is no cat, which is eerily similar to a skull they found in 2021. What's worse is experts testified under oath that one of them is seen to have eggs inside it, and both specimens were said to have implants made of very rare metals. And even though the aliens are pretty small, you can tell that this is clearly something different. I ain't gonna lie, this guy looks like he doesn't want to go to work tomorrow. Let's take one last look. Do you believe in aliens?
Morbid facts.
Do you?
Part 402. George Lopez has a genetic condition that caused his kidneys to slowly deteriorate. So when he needed a new kidney in 2005, his wife Ann gave him one of her own. A couple years later, George reportedly cheated on his wife, then divorced her in 2010, all while wearing her kidney. The first scientist to observe penguins engaging in gay intercourse, grape, and necrophilia was so disturbed that he tried to obscure his findings to prevent people from knowing the truth about penguins. In 1995, a substitute school bus driver in Illinois stopped at a red light with the back part of the bus still on some train tracks. The children were screaming for her to move the bus forward as a train approached, but she was confused about what they meant. The train struck the bus at 60 miles per hour and 7 children were killed. In 2018, Gloria Williams pleaded guilty to posing as a nurse to abduct Kamaya Mobley from her mother's arms in the maternity ward. She was sentenced to 18 years in prison, the same length of time Kamaya was separated from her birth family.
That was not it.
4-year-old Gabby Mann was living in Seattle, Washington with her family. One day, she dropped a chicken nugget onto the ground, and before she could pick it up, a neighborhood crow swooped down and took the free lunch. And because Gabby was a messy eater, she continued to drop food everywhere she went, and so she continued to inadvertently feed these crows. She grew to really enjoy the attention, and so she started feeding them huge portions of her lunch. When Gabby's mother discovered where most of her daughter's food was going, she wasn't upset. She was just worried her daughter wasn't getting enough to eat. They would go out and buy some food just for the crows. She and her mom began feeding the crows every day. Gabby went outside one morning to refill the peanut tray when she noticed there was a small earring. Over the following few weeks, when more and more little trinkets started showing up, Gabby's mom installed a camera. She was amazed to see the crows would come in and they would eat their food, and then they would leave behind these shiny little trinkets. But the crows' most astonishing gift came the following year. Gabby's mother was an avid photographer, and one day she was out by herself photographing a bald eagle. She managed to drop a lens cover to one of her cameras. That night, when she got back to her house, she couldn't believe what was sitting there. She ran back inside and pulled up the footage from the bird camera, and there it was, a crow coming into the yard with the lens cap in its mouth. This behavior is very significant because it means the relationship between the crow crows and Gabby and her mom was not a transactional one. Today, Gabby and her mother still feed the crows every single day, and the crows still love Gabby and her mother.
Okay,
It's like good karma coming back to
a
you.
pharmaceutical company that's trialing a new groundbreaking age reversal pill had such good results that the local news wanted to run a story on them. But before they even could publish the video, the chairman and CEO died. You see, 6 months ago, this 12-year-old German Shepherd was near death. He had terminal cancer, was operated on, and his prognosis wasn't looking good. The dog's caretaker knew that an age reversal trial was being conducted on dogs, and so she asked if Zeus could be a part of it due to his dire situation. The pill's aim is to lengthen telomere caps on human stem cells, because as part of the aging process, our telomeres shorten, which increases the chance of age-related diseases and, of course, death.
If you can increase telomeres, you can reproduce stem cells and keep repairing things so that you can get literally younger.
They said that in their drug's preclinical data from a previous in vitro human cell study, it showed that the medication lengthened telomeres by almost 200%. Zeus was granted access to the medication in April, and his caretaker said that she saw results almost immediately.
He's doing marvelously. He goes out to our pool and he swims and he has fun and he plays with the tennis ball.
A recent scan showed that the cancer in his body had completely disappeared, and the results were so remarkable that she asked for more to give another 12-year-old dog that could hardly walk due to arthritis. And just last week, she said that he had started galloping and running again. But then, despite all of that, he hit us with this.
And we are sad to report that since this interview was conducted, Dr. Christopher Chapman has recently passed away.
On the company's website, they announced his passing, saying, out of respect and privacy for Dr. Chapman's family, details of the 71-year-old's passing will not be made available. And then added that to support the new chairman and CEO, 3 telomere directors have voluntarily resigned. Human trials for this drug are planned for mid-2025.
The rarest things in the world.
What do you think happened?
Vaquita, only 10 left in the wild. Rarest gem on earth, payment worth $60,000 per carat. Rarest poker hand, the royal flush, 1 in 655,000 chance. Rarest element on earth, as the time, less than 1 gram on earth exists. Rarest car, Ferrari 250 Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo? Didn't they make a movie about that?
Okay, this is getting hard to believe, but there has just been reports of a second wave of explosions in Lebanon, but this time it's people's walkie-talkies. So yesterday, Hezbollah fighters' pagers, today, their radios. Initial reports are saying that the most recent wave of explosions have caused cars and houses to be set on fire, and there were even reports, this one's crazy, that one exploded at a funeral of someone who died from yesterday's explosions. And while I'm on the topic of explosions, you're going to see a lot of reports of people saying explosive devices found at Trump rally, even going as far as saying third assassination attempt, question mark. Let me just save you some time. That is a false report. There's going to be a lot of corrections. Don't worry about it. I'll keep you updated.
Imagine being kidnapped, locked in a basement, and then when the police come, they just leave you there to die. Back in the 1980s, many girls in Belgium were just randomly vanishing without a trace. This guy right here, Mark Detroit, was the guy who was doing all of this. Now in his early years, he had a lot of relationship issues and ended up marrying his second wife, Michelle Martin, this woman right here. What these two would do together genuinely will make you feel sick. Major trigger warning, if you're easily scared, please just keep on scrolling right now. This is your final warning. On June the 7th, 1985, they took their first victim, who was an 11-year-old girl walking home from school, which they kidnapped. They took her back to their place, armed her, and then took a photo of her after this before just releasing her. Now they did this tons of times before actually being caught by the police the first time, but then it got far worse. So they were both arrested but got a very, very short sentence and were out in no time. Mark was released in 1992 after serving literally 3 years in prison for all of this. Of course, the reason they were caught the first time was because the victims they let go free had reported them, so they built this literal dungeon in the basement of the house where they would keep people. He went on to kidnap at least 6 people in the space of a couple of years and left them all in here. At this time, the news was going crazy in the local area because tons of girls were going missing, no one knew where they were, but they were all in here. Now, even crazier again, Mark's own mother actually reported him to the police and they still didn't go round. And she even told the police that he literally had girls captive in the basement right now and the police did nothing. Not long after this, though, Mark was actually arrested for something completely separate, stealing a car, and he told his wife she would have to keep the girls in the basement alive by watering them and feeding them. Yeah. Now, by far, the most angering part of this whole story is that the police finally went round and did a check on the house. He literally heard children screaming and begging for help, and they walked out. They did nothing. Because apparently it sounded like the screams were coming from outside and just kids playing a prank or something. Like, what? There was even undeveloped camera film on the side here, which they just didn't develop, but if they did, they would have seen literally everything. Now, apparently, this woman was too scared to go into the basement and look after the girls, so tragically passed away. When he finally got out, he started again, and more girls started vanishing, until eventually someone came forward after spotting him in a van, basically while in the act. He then confessed, showed the police the whole basement and everything, and even showed them where some bodies of people were. He also reportedly had another accomplice, but they had a disagreement, and he unalived him and buried him in the house as well. After the whole case came to a close, she got 30 years in jail, and he got...
Guaranteed that the end of this video is going to shock you. There was a young girl who had trouble making friends because her mom wouldn't let her play with the other kids in the neighborhood. One day, the mom left to go to the store, so she snuck outside of the house. She grabbed her teddy bear and went outside, but still, none of the kids wanted to play with her. Eventually, a strange-looking boy approached her and said that he wanted to be her friend. The little girl was thrilled to finally have a friend her age, and he eventually asked if she wanted to come to his house to play. When they arrived, the little girl was confused, because the house appeared to be abandoned like no one had been in there for years. They walked into his garden, and immediately the girl threw up. She asked him for some water, and he just smiled at her creepily and said, "You're going to sleep here sometime soon." Weeks later, the girl went looking for him, and he was nowhere to be found. Soon, a paper airplane flew to her, and it was a newspaper clipping. She opened it up to find that the boy she'd been playing with went missing 9 years ago.
So it was a ghost or something?
This is one of the strangest unsolved mysteries of all time. In 1952, 9 Russian hikers who were all super experienced set off into the Ural Mountains. However, the path that they chose to take on the hike was pretty hard, even for hikers as experienced as them. And to make things worse, they ran into a severe snowstorm that night. So all 9 of the hikers decided to set up their tents and try and wait out the storm. However, at some point during that night, the hikers cut open their tents from the inside and set off into the snowstorm. All 9 of them began to head towards some trees that were nearby their campsite. And this is where the story gets really creepy. A few days later, 3 of the 9 campers were found dead in the trees. And at the base of these trees, there were a bunch of claw marks and scratches on the trunks. And the 6 other hikers were also all found dead scattered around the area. And upon testing them, their skin and clothes appeared to be radioactive.
Remember this man who claimed to be Diddy's sex slave and no one believed him?
I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, the they told me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard lots of business. Because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with people and stuff, and I was like a sex slave, okay?
His name's Jonathan Audie, and allegedly he signed an NDA in exchange for $5 million in 2014. Now, how do we know this? This photo of this NDA was made public recently, and it has Sean Combs and Jonathan Audie's signature. So Jonathan was a well-known entertainer and later became a porn star, and he met Diddy sometime around 2014 at a party at the ultra-exclusive Star Island in Miami Beach. Jonathan had some crazy claims, but he said that he was forced to sleep with Cassie and others while Diddy watched and filmed. And to further corroborate this claim, at the time, Jonathan was married to a woman named Tanya Trotwine, who actually came forward the other day and confirmed that not long after Jonathan met Diddy, he asked her for a divorce. Tanya said that Jonathan was extremely pushy to finalize the divorce, and not even a month later after meeting Diddy, he purchased 5 properties mortgage-free, yet he only made $2,000 a month. So where did he get all this sudden cash? So that's definitely something to question, and now with the Diddy's trial coming up, I'm genuinely curious to see if Jonathan would be testifying against him.
Only 3% of people can do this. You need to put your hand flat on the wall and bend your pinky finger back without moving any of your other fingers. So the real question is, are you in this 3%?
I am. I can do that easy. Are you in the 3%, seekers? Test it out.
Strangest unsolved mysteries in every U.S. state. Part 23, Colorado. In 1990, a man named Steve Lee moved his family into his dream house in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The house was in the middle of nowhere and was surrounded by a dark, dense forest. Just a week after they moved in, Steve and his family began to see strange, shadowy figures moving along the walls of the house at night. they began to hear quiet whispers, footsteps, and rattling chains all around their home. Even crazier, the family's electronics and lights began to flicker on and off randomly. Steve was afraid that people were breaking into his home at night, so he bought motion detectors and placed them all around his house. However, the motion detectors began detecting motion literally everywhere, even when there clearly wasn't anyone there. Steve thought the motion detectors were malfunctioning, so he placed cameras all around the house instead. They began to capture strange orbs of light floating around the house at night, and even ghost faces on walls and windows. Somehow, the family still lives in that same exact house to this very day, and they still experience the same strange occurrences every single night.
They need to move out. I don't know why they still there.
Here's the truth behind Winnie the Pooh. All of the characters in Winnie the Pooh represent a different mental disorder. Winnie represents an eating disorder, which is why he eats so much honey. Eeyore represents depression, which is why he's sad all the time. Tigger represents ADHD, it's the reason why he can never stay still. Christopher Robin represents schizophrenia because all of the animals in the show are actually just in his head. Piglet represents anxiety, this is why she is always nervous. Rabbit represents OCD because he is obsessed with order. The owl represents narcissism, this is the reason why he thinks he is wiser than everybody else. And Rue represents autism, this is why she is always confused.
On Wednesday morning at 2:17 a.m., 17 children from the same classroom at Maybrook Elementary School went missing at the same time. They got out of their beds, opened their front door, and ran out. Their parents were convinced that their teacher was involved in their disappearance. But after paying close attention to their Ring cameras, they realized something more sinister was going on. But if you want to know what happens next, you need to go watch the movie Weapons. I went to the screening, and hands down, it's one of the best horror movies I've seen this year. Weapons has such an interesting storyline, and I usually don't get scared from horror movies, but this time was different. Not to mention, it's starring Julia Gardner, which made me so much more eager to go watch it. Also, Warner Bros. Really went all out because we were taken on a whole field trip right before we watched the movie, and we were kind of scared because we didn't know what to expect. Like, where was the school bus taking us? This entire experience really hyped up the movie for us, and it did not disappoint. Weapons is finally out in theaters today, and if you go and watch it, let me know.
Did any of the seekers see Weapons? I heard it was a whole movie, but I heard it was more of like a thriller.
These people were literally just sat on a Zoom call until everyone they knew started dying. Ever seen a horror movie that just makes you feel sick, that you can't stop thinking about it for days? Well, these are the ones you need to see in under 60 seconds, and no spoilers. You've probably no doubt seen scenes from The Grudge. Pretty terrifying film, but nothing compared to Ju-on The Grudge. This is the original, and it is absolutely horrifying. Same as in the popular remake, this woman goes and stays at a house, and then, well, there's a spirit that inhabits this house, and horrendous stuff starts happening. But it follows more on the side of this boy who, like, meows. A group of friends decide to go on a caving expedition. Doesn't sound like a great idea. They go right down and descend into these caves where no one has been before, but wait, there's definitely people in there. This has probably the biggest jump scare I've ever seen in my life, well, multiple of them, and is just genuinely horrifying. Wait till they pull out the camcorder. This film was filmed completely on a Zoom call, which is crazy. Essentially, this group of friends get together one evening on a Zoom call in lockdown to basically speak to this psychic woman, and they're trying to contact people in the afterlife and prove to each other that paranormal life does exist. And, well, it definitely does. And, yeah, what happens next is crazy. The ending of this film, I don't think I've ever jumped so much in my life.
This boy survived one of the most brutal cartel attacks ever. It was a normal morning on November 4th, 2019, when 3 SUVs carrying mothers and children from a quiet Mormon community in Mexico unknowingly drove straight into cartel territory. Then, without warning, hell broke loose. Bullets began raining down from the hills. High-caliber rounds tore through metal and flesh as the convoy was ambushed by cartel gunmen, likely mistaking them for rivals. One vehicle was lit on fire with 5 family members still trapped inside, the air filled with screams, smoke, and the stench of burning bodies. In one of the SUVs, 13-year-old Devin Langford sat frozen as his mother was shot dead beside him. His younger brothers took bullets, blood pooled around his feet, but Devin didn't break. With ears ringing and his body trembling, he pulled 6 surviving siblings from the wreckage. Some were injured and one had a bullet in the chest. Devin dragged them into the brush, covering them with branches and whispering to them not to cry. Terrified the cartel members would come back to finish the job. Then he made an unthinkable choice. Alone and without food or shoes, he walked nearly 14 miles through cartel-infested desert. He did this to go get help, and hours later, rescuers found his 9-year-old sister barefoot and bleeding, still trying to save the others. Devin's heroic actions saved the lives of all of his siblings.
He
He's a
co-founded
hero.
a MAGA-themed fast food chain. Now he's facing deportation. Lebanese immigrant Roland Bainey has built 4 locations of Trump Burger in Texas. The restaurant serves everything from the Trump Tower Burger to the Melania Crispy Chicken, complete with Trump family impersonators. But Bainey is now under federal investigation after being accused of immigration fraud. Homeland Security says he faked a sham marriage to get his green card. Immigration officials reportedly found no lease, no shared accounts, no proof the couple ever lived together, and have already notified him that his green card is being revoked. He's due in immigration court in November, where he could be formally ordered to leave the country.
Let's talk about a fishing horror game where you have to pay off a debt you owe to a shark, but there's something else under the water with you. Yes, this is a fishing horror game, and it's called Lone Shark. Full playthrough of the entire game on my channel. The story here is actually really good. We're on a ship called the Vita Nova, and we owe 100,000 euros to a shark. That loan was how we got the boat in the first place, and now we have to get all of that debt by tonight. So we fish and fish and fish. But the problem is the fish we're catching are barely worth anything. The night ends in an hour. There's no way we can get the money in time. But everything changes when we catch the talking fish Cagliuso. This guy gives us one of his special eyes to use as a lure. And with that lure, we catch golden fish. And they are worth a ton of money. As we fish, we keep hearing strange things under the water. And Cagliuso keeps referring to an associate he knows. There's something else going on here. Are we being tricked? I won't spoil the story after that point. You can check out my playthrough if you want. But this game really is a terrifying depiction of how debt can spiral out of control. This girl was held captive by her family for 25 years. Blanche Monnier came from an esteemed family and seemed destined for a life of privilege. But when she fell in love with a man her family deemed unsuitable, a modest lawyer, her mother reacted with fury. Determined to stop the relationship, she took an unthinkable step to ensure Blanche would never marry. Blanche vanished without a trace, and for 25 long years, her fate remained a mystery. In truth, she had been secretly imprisoned by her own family in a small dark room of their home. With the shutters nailed shut and no access to sunlight or fresh air, Blanche was left in squalor, her basic needs ignored. She lived in silence and filth, confined to the same bed day and night while the family lied to the outside world, claiming she had moved abroad and entered a coven. Friends and society had no reason to suspect anything more sinister. However, it wasn't until May 23, 1901, when an anonymous letter reached the authorities in Paris, that the horrifying secret was finally exposed. Police raided the home and discovered Blanche, now a skeletal, broken woman, lying in darkness, her condition appalling. Blanche weighed only 55 pounds when she was found. Her mother was immediately arrested and the case sent shockwaves through France.
When I tell you this is the worst phobia thing I've ever seen in my entire life, I'm not joking. This is actually the worst thing I've ever seen, and it is a massive, life-size orca with a seal in its mouth that is completely submerged, and it comes out of the water on a dark ride, and it goes all the way back down, completely submerged again. And if you know me, you know I have a massive phobia of orcas, and I've shown this in a video in the past, and I just needed to re-traumatize y'all and make y'all understand that this is the scariest thing in the entire world to me. It is in Australia at the Kelly Tarletons, and guess what? It's abandoned now. Yeah, and it is still visible through a hole in the wall where it was abandoned in 2012. And here's a photo of it visible through the wall with all the dust on it, and oh my god, this photo is actually the worst thing and has bammed all of my boozles, and I have difficulty even looking at it.
Really?
Call me a snowflake all you want, I don't care. This is the scariest thing in the entire world to me with my huge orca phobia, and I just can't handle this. No. Watch this video and let me know what you're thinking, and would you ever go on this ride back when it was operational? Oh my god.
Let's check it out. Where is it? About to come up? I'm cool with it. Looks like a jump scare though. Comes up out of nowhere. What's up with these abandoned parks?
Talking about the woman in Florida who was posing as a nurse for 2 years, and she serviced 4,500 patients. Granted, she's been arrested, but I was thinking to myself, how is this even possible? Like, surely there's some verification system when hiring a medical professional, right? From what I understood, she took her nursing exam, did not pass, so then when it came time for her to apply and she had to provide like a nursing number, something to prove that she was an actual nurse, she provided one for a different woman, a nurse who had her first name but not her last name. She's been arrested. She's gonna face something like 14 different felony charges for this, but I'm also questioning, I'm like, she is definitely at fault for lying, but is the hospital also not at fault? The nurses and attorneys, please weigh in on this one. I'm very confused.
Me too. Why is it red? Another seat turning red, that's a bad sign.
So Sydney Sweeney is allegedly costing American Eagle a lot of money. And this came from the blinds of apparently what American Eagle execs are saying behind closed doors. So I'm going to get into it. Everybody's well aware of the American Eagle campaign that Sydney Sweeney did that was not well received. A lot of people criticizing it, including some celebrities, of saying that it had this bizarre subtext and undertone of genetic supremacy. I do want to hear where you stand on this, but I'm more curious to hear about how you feel about the blind item. So the story that's allegedly getting buried here from all the bad press is that her endorsement did absolutely nothing for sales or even traffic or clicks to the website. Apparently execs are fuming because they assumed that her name and endorsement would equate to influence for the brand. Rumor has it American Eagle may have paid her upwards of 7 figures for the campaign.
Here are some photos taken right before...
I don't know if there's conflicting stories or not, but I don't know. I heard that. I just heard a different story. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't know what's going on with that whole ordeal.
For Disaster, Part 3. Here is the last photo ever taken of Paul Walker. It shows him climbing into the car that eventually crashed, taking him and the driver's lives back in 2013. Craziest part is, Paul Walker wasn't even the one driving. The guy driving was a professional race car driver. And the saddest part is that all this happened at a charity event that Paul Walker was hosting. RIP. This photo was taken right before the Homage bombing. The red car in this photograph right here contained a bomb that killed 29 people and injured some 220 others. Surprisingly, the man and child both survived, but the photographer didn't.
What we at night, man? You want some nighttime vibes?
Have you ever heard about the urban legend of the Japanese kappa? We're going to be talking about it today, and here's an animatronic of one in water. So the Japanese kappa is a water monster that has like a little bump on its head, which we'll get to that in a moment. But this thing that looks like an egg, you know what that is? That is your soul that it sucks out through your butt.
What?
Yeah, these Japanese water demons, they will suck your soul out of your butt, which is super interesting and also terrifying. This is one in a little tank, and that is super creepy, by the way. The little bump on the top of his head has to be kept wet at all times, otherwise the kappa can apparently like cease to exist. So, interesting. I was born with something called aplasia cutis. I don't know if you can tell, but I have a bump on the top of my head. It looks just like the Japanese kappa. And I sent it to my mom one time and I was like, bro, I just realized with my bald spot I look like a Japanese kappa. Google it. And she said, you do resemble him. Thanks, Mom. Here's another depiction of one, and apparently in Japan, you know how like sometimes parents will like scare their kids about like the boogeyman or like tell like tall tales and things like that.
Yeah.
In Japan, in order to keep their children from drowning and like keeping them near like large bodies of water, they will be like, do not go near that. There's a kappa in there. They don't say Japanese kappa, but they're like, there's a kappa in there and it'll get you. And then so the kids don't go near there so that they don't drown. Super interesting. I always love hearing about stuff like that. But yeah, like culturally, apparently they like to mess with kids. Here's one in a human in like a kappa suit, like traumatizing little children. And that's horrible. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of like submechanophobia of the Japanese kappa in Japan. And watch this video and let me know what you're thinking. And I do not like this. Here's one of the animatronics with the person so you can see just how big it is in that water.
I just can't believe they said they take your soul through the butt. What the heck?
Here are some unexplainable photos, Part 2. In August of the year 1997, members of the Russell family visited their grandmother in the home where she was living. They were later surprised to discover that in the background of this photo they took of her, their grandfather appeared behind her, but he had died 3 years earlier. Nicknamed the Black Knight, this mysterious space-like object right here has been spotted following an unusual polar orbit. When the drama of John F. Kennedy's assassination unfolded in Dallas, November 22nd, 1963, this unknown woman right here was there and filmed the whole thing. But the FBI was never able to locate her. Why was she recording everything and where did she go? This photo shows British war workers escape to the seaside. This photo was taken in September 1943. But in the middle of the photo right here, this guy looks like he's on a cell phone. Pretty cool.
Time travel confirmed? Oh, that was a different device.
Most dangerous countries in the world. Syria. Crime index 69.1.
USA about to be first, isn't it?
Trinidad and Tobago. Crime index 70.8.
Keeps increasing.
Honduras. Crime index 72.7. South Africa. Crime index 74.8. Afghanistan. Crime index 75.7. Haiti. Crime index 78.7.
3 signs that you might be a genius. 1. You're sarcastic. People that are sarcastic are usually clever and quick-witted. This is because being sarcastic requires you to think on your feet. Number 2, staying up late. If this is you at 3 AM, there's a high chance that you're smarter than the average person. So the next time you're tired in class, just show this video to your teacher. And finally, at number 3, you have messy handwriting. Studies have proven that people have messy handwriting because their brains work faster than their hands. Now everyone take a minute to tag someone or share this with someone that needs to hear it.
Okay, I'm number 2. And I got sarcasm down as well. I got 2 out of the 3, man. So
there's this
genius.
fake nurse in Florida that treated 4,400 patients without a license at all. Here she is getting arrested in the car. She got arrested on Tuesday. This went on from July of 2023 up until literally Tuesday. How did she get away with posing as a registered nurse? Let's talk about how this happened. So she was working as an advanced nursing assistant, right? So she was working under the supervision of an RN. Eventually she would go on to lie at the hospital saying, she was about to take her board exam. She hadn't passed it yet, but she was, right around the corner about to take it. She gave them a licensing number that led to her first name, but not her last name. So she made up the story that she recently got married. That's why it didn't change yet. They requested the marriage record. She never provided it. She got their promotion anyways, and that's how she treated patients for 2 years. Now, this is a complete disregard of credentials by the hospital system and also her too. This is so dangerous for patient safety. This hospital should also be held accountable. Thankfully, a nosy employee decided to check her nursing credential status, and when they pulled it up, they found an expired CNA license. She's getting hit with 7 counts of fraud and also 7 counts of, mistreating patients because she didn't have a license to do that in the first place. But I have to emphasize, this also wouldn't be an issue if that certain hospital wasn't so, negligent on maybe doing a little screening and maybe waiting for the credentials to drop before you hire somebody or promote somebody. Either way, I hope her practicing for the last 2-3 years didn't negatively affect any patients or their families. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about this.
You can die peacefully now.
Insane, truly.
Marshmallow without mask. Chris Comstock. First Instagram photo.
First dog selfie.
A black albino. Grown-up Teletubbies baby son. Ninja Turtle without mask. Vin Diesel with hair.
That looks like a cat, bro.
McDonald's being built. Smurf without the hat. Rainbow's End.
Pot of gold at the end.
Places that you can't visit. Brazil. Snake Island.
Okay, Mr. Beast went to that island we saw.
North Sentinel Island.
Heard about that too.
Indonesia. Mount Merapi. Ukraine. Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. Atlantic Ocean. The Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, we ain't going there.
Japan. Ayokigahara Forest. Tanzania. Lake Natron. Ethiopia. Danico Depression.
What is
Italy. Poveglia Island.
I haven't been this disturbed in a while. This poor girl was essayed by her father for 12 years, had 3 children with him, all while her grandparents knew. This all happened in West Virginia. Alexandra Thomas was only 9 years old when her father, Kenneth Cook, began essaying her. She gave birth to her first child at 16, her second child at 18, and her third child at 20 years old. This is her dad's Facebook account. It says Daddy's Baby Girls. Disgusting. Alexandra said that at the age of 9, she tried to tell CPS, but her grandmother worked very closely with them and told them that she was lying. She said that her grandfather also knew what was going on, but he wasn't surprised and just didn't care. She said that her father threatened her multiple times that if she said anything again, he could make her disappear. She wasn't allowed to have a phone, friends, and he kept her away from her mother's family so that this secret wouldn't get out. Alexandra posted this on Facebook, and basically she said that her youngest was born with severe health issues and stayed in the hospital for the first week, but since her father was scared that the truth would be exposed, he forced her to keep the baby at home, all while he needed medical attention. This disgusting family secret was finally revealed one day when the youngest child was found malnourished. He was only weighing 6 pounds at the age of 1. That's when they did a genetic testing and found out that Kenneth and Alexandra were related. This monster faces more than 150 charges, and his parents can also be charged because they knew this entire time and they never reported it.
This is trypophobia.
The world is going to a freaking dark place, dark hole, man. The grandparents knew and they did nothing to try to stop it. They just ignored us. Hey, ain't my problem. Come on, man. People need to be better, plain and simple.
Phobia test, Extreme Edition. Can you make it through all 5? Let's find out. Start the test. Number 1. How about this?
I'm cool.
Halfway through. Feeling uncomfortable yet? Last one. If you couldn't make it to the end, then you could have trypophobia, which is the fear of clusters of small holes or patterns. Follow now to see if you can make it through the next extreme phobia test.
I made it. Where was she at?
If you're scared of snakes, this video will probably be your worst nightmare. This absolute unit of a snake is called the Titanoboa, and they existed over 60 million years ago. These things were slithering around at almost 50 feet long, and let me just put that into perspective for you. That would be like lining up 8 Shaquille O'Neals from head to toe, and we know that dude's massive. Now, God didn't want to make them too overpowered, so he didn't give them any venom, but he did give them the ability to be amazing swimmers and even faster than a racehorse when moving on land. Now, although the Titanoboa doesn't have any venom, it is a constrictor, so when it catches its prey, it crushes the absolute soul out of it. Its jaw then unhinges, allowing its mouth to open wide enough to consume a whole human, alligator, really anything else. You might be thinking, with all this power, how did this beast go extinct? Well, it's not because they skipped leg day. No. You see, when the Earth cooled down, they couldn't maintain their metabolism anymore and went extinct. You can thank God that they're not around today. Make sure you share this video with someone who hates snakes.
Today I'm going to show you one of the scariest things on the internet. When is the last time any of you guys have actually checked your spam folder? Well, today I got really bored and I was checking my emails and I clicked on my spam folder and I came across this. This is a spam email and it is basically threatening me that if I don't send $1,300, they're going to ruin my life. Firstly, I already know you and all of your loved ones very well. Secondly, the occasion for which I'm writing to you is not the happiest one for a friendly greeting. The next part of this email then proceeds to tell me that it has access to my webcam and that it's been monitoring my activity for the last few months and I've been up to some not good things. Apparently, I've been watching a highly controversial video. They recorded it. Then they proceed to tell me that they have access to my entire contact list and they're going to be sending this controversial video they recorded of me to all my friends, colleagues, and family. Here is the bad part. I can go further and put all of these files as well as the recorded fun of you and your hacked contents with hardcore videos. Then they proceed to say, send me $1,300 and I won't send it. Well, they got me really interested. Because I was like, there's no way people are actually dumb enough to fall for this scam, right? They have made a total of $4,547. So that makes me wonder, what type of videos are these people who are sending the money watching? Look, I'm not telling people to do this, but they've made about $5 grand in like 4 days. Not bad. But the real question is, what type of videos were these people watching where they felt scared enough to actually send the money? Be sure to like and follow for more videos tomorrow.
He's actually asking important questions, man. They sent $1,300 there. What were they watching, bro? They must have been watching something they wasn't supposed to, man. They were that scared. Because obviously you can tell that was a fake email, but it scared him to the core. He was doing something they weren't supposed to be doing.
Morbid Facts, Part 10. When 13-year-old Ryan White got AIDS from a blood donor in 1984, he was only given 6 months to live. Even though doctors said he posed absolutely zero risk to other students, Ryan was banned from returning to school by a petition signed by 117 parents. An auction was even held to raise funds to keep him out, and a local newspaper that supported him received death threats. The family had no other choice but to leave town when a bullet was shot through the window of their home. Ryan outlived the doctor's diagnosis by 5 years, dying at the age of 19. In 2009, Moscow native Julia Popova was stabbed in the neck by a mugger, but she was in so much shock that she walked home without even realizing that the knife was embedded in her, just millimeters from her spinal cord. She spent over an hour with the blade in her back before finally going to the hospital. The knife was successfully removed via surgery, and Julia made a full recovery. Dutchman Dirk Willems was a religious prisoner who escaped his execution in 1569. When the guard chasing him fell through the ice in a nearby river, Willems turned around to save him. He was then recaptured and burned at the stake. Your lungs have a total surface area of 750 square feet, meaning if they are opened up and laid flat, they would cover the entire size of a tennis court. In 1977, the drummer for Lynyrd Skynyrd, Artemis Pyle, survived the plane crash that killed half the band. He then walked to a nearby house for help, only to be shot by the homeowner. He was apparently startled by the sight of a long-haired, bloody man, and fired a warning shot that hit the drummer in the shoulder. Once Pyle shouted that there was a crash, the farmer helped him and he went on to recover.
Just wait for the video at the end where you see this giant thing submerged. It's beautiful. It's not. This is the gigantic crocodile animatronic used for the 1999 movie Lake Placid. Look at the animatronics mechanics that are going to be completely submerged, including most of it. And this is how absolutely massive it is. It was made by Stan Winston and his crew, and they're geniuses. It's great, but this horrifies me. I'm suing. Like, here's it in the water, mostly submerged, with bro up there. I could never, you could not pay me to be a guy in the freaking water like this. No. Like, could you ever get in the water with this thing? With this gigantic crocodile animatronic? No. Nah. This is the gigantic rig that is actually the, like, skeleton of the crocodile that's completely submerged. Like, look at this. Look at this. Knowing it's completely submerged in the water, I hate it. Look at this one. What's that underneath him? That's a person that's, like, fixing things underneath it. Let's look at it again. Could you ever do that? They use a giant winch to put it in the water. Like, why? They could have completely used CGI. They should have. I'm scared. This is one of the worst ones for me. Watch this video and let me know what you're thinking. And could you ever be in the water with that?
Imagine seeing that, man. You don't even think that's an animatronic. You would think that was real. You really can't tell the difference.
Here are some signs that you won't believe actually exist. Alright, here's the first one. Please do not stand, sit, climb, or lean on zoo fences. If you fall, animals scare you, and that might make them sick. Thank you. This container transports a disease which has no cure. Why? Danger, if you fall in the pond, you will be boiled. Attention, make sure the door is closed tightly so bears can't get in, thank you. Wild bears be getting in, what the Really hoping the same sign is on the entrance of the slide. Oh, surely it isn't. Do not grab Hamish by the horns. I will not grab Hamish by the horns. If elevator does not move, do a small jump, it should move after. Nah, why would it move? What? Danger, do not get on elevator with one of these. If it leaks, you'll die. Why would someone get an elevator with one of these? What?
Behind me is 14-year-old George Stinney Jr., and at the age of 14, he was falsely accused of killing 2 girls. This happened 80 years ago, and this little kid was sentenced to death by the electric chair. They found the bodies of 2 young girls by George's house, so they automatically blamed him, even though they had no evidence whatsoever. On top of the false accusations, he spent 81 days in jail without even seeing his parents, and he was 80 miles away from his hometown. And he also did not get treated well. He didn't even have a lawyer in his presence during the time of questioning, and he was a kid, so he doesn't know better. He also did not receive a fair trial. The trial lasted 2 hours, and then it was handed down in 10 minutes. His parents weren't even allowed in the courtroom, and then they were banned from the city. On the day of his execution, he was carrying a Bible with him, and then they had to prop him up on that same Bible because he was too short for the electric chair. 70 years later, they overturned this conviction, saying that this case didn't make any sense. Apparently, the girls died because blunt force trauma by a beam. George is way too small to lift that beam up, so they were like, there's no possible way. But the damage was done. This was 70 years, way too late. The Green Mile by Stephen King was inspired by this story. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Let's see if you have thalassophobia. I'm going to show you 5 photos. If you feel too uncomfortable to make it to the 5th photo, then you could have thalassophobia. So let's go. First one. How about this?
I'm cool.
Feeling uneasy yet? Almost there. Last one. If those images made you feel uneasy, then you may have thalassophobia, which is the fear of deep bodies of water. So let me know if you discovered a new phobia down below.
But I wouldn't go that deep in water, so I think the last one got me, man. I'll never go that deep. That ain't for me. Somebody in there with him? Yep.
This film director was found stabbed to death inside of her London home. One thing was missing, it was her diamond-encrusted Rolex, and they think that is the motive for the murder right now. Her name is Jennifer Abbott, but she was known professionally as Sarah Steinberg. Now here's the crazy part, she was found by her niece and neighbors, and when they found her, she had tape over her mouth. Somebody stabbed her, maybe taped her mouth before they stabbed her, and then took her stuff and headed out. On top of this, she was found wrapped in a blanket on her bed. She was last seen walking her corgi on June 10th. Now that same very corgi was found alive. However, it was locked in the bathroom for 3 days, so it's a miracle that thing even survived. The niece was panicking that something was wrong with her aunt when she showed up initially. She got the neighbors, and the neighbor's son ended up breaking the door down. People are saying she also had stomach cancer and recently underwent surgery right before her death, which makes me think personally, somebody must have heard something, maybe she went through surgery and was recovering, and then that made her the perfect victim for their attack. Of course, she's a very successful director. She's going to have expensive things probably laying around her home. Do you guys think there's something fishy behind the scenes? Let me know.
Was this woman saved by her guardian angel? Joan wrote on Catholic.org that when she was 21, she was heading to a club with 2 friends. She said that as she got ready, she started feeling really odd. Then she said that it became clear to her that her and her friend were going to get into a car accident and she would not walk away from it. This was before cell phones, so she had to wait for her friend to tell her that she could not go with her since she had already left her house when Joan had this revelation. When Joan opened the door to tell her friend that she would not be going, she said that she felt a strong hand on each of her shoulders holding her back, even though she was completely alone in the room. When she told her friend that she could not go with her, she said that the hands and the odd feeling went away. On the way home from the club, her friend got into a car accident and totaled the passenger side of the car where Joan would have been sitting. She was fine, but the passenger side of the car was completely destroyed.
I need to know how you feel about abandoned water parks, because if you're anything like me, you hate this. Look at this in the water. That shouldn't be there. That's supposed to float, not sink. Why is abandoned places, number one, terrifying, but also abandoned amusement parks and water parks so much worse? This image with the graffiti, that's actually beautiful. I don't like this though. This is still water. Icky. We got Cosmo and Wanda, or more recently, Elphaba and Glinda. The pipes in the water of this one in particular sends me over the edge. I have a huge phobia of pipes and water. Call me stupid, make fun of me all you want. This is icky, and I know I'm not the only one. Imagine that you're exploring an abandoned water park late at night, and you decide to go in there, and you get stuck, and there's no one to save you. I don't like that. Why am I scaring myself? Like, that's not safe, dude. That's not... Please get down. Please get down. I'm gonna call your mom.
It really is.
Like, why? Why do people do this? I just don't like the fact that nature is taking this place back. It's beautiful. Terrifying, though. So, yeah. How do you feel? Terrifying, right? Or am I dumb yet again?
Maybe. Maybe I go exploring. Abandoned water park during the day, but not during the night. I don't know what creepy crawler's gonna try to come out. So yeah.
World's most dangerous conspiracy theories. This picture represents conspiracy theories from the most well-known to the darkest. Some of these theories say once you learn the truth, there's no return. For this series, we're going to be picking some from each category until we reach tier 10, the point of no return. Tier 10 is so scary that some people are saying that I will die before I even reach tier 10. Okay, tier 1. Today we're going to be talking about cryptozoology. Cryptozoology is defined as the search for animals whose existence is disputed. For example, Bigfoot, Chupacabra, and the Loch Ness Monster. For this one, I want to talk about the ningen. The ningen is based in Japan. It's an aquatic humanoid creature that can be larger than a whale but also mutate into a human. I know what you're thinking, no way this is real. I thought the same thing until I saw this. In 2007, a company published a magazine with ningens on the cover. The magazines were completely destroyed with no trace, but I found the PDF file of what it looked like. It gets even weirder. Early February 2013, a huge mysterious object washes ashore that makes locals freak out. 3 days later, the website was taken down without a trace. Doing some more research, I found out that people from Japan created a forum page talking about all of the government corruption that was happening. They then began to speak on the ningen, and somebody says that he was on the research ship when they captured it on camera, and then government officials raided the boat and even supposedly killing some of the people. 3 days later, the forum page was taken down without a trace, but I found it once again, and take a look at one of the videos somebody posted. So what do you think? Is this ningen just some myth, or is the government hiding something much darker? This was only tier 1. Make sure to follow to see tier 2 because we have a lot more to cover.
Creepy last words people said right before dying. Registered nurse Shirley Smith said that she had a very rich patient who was of cancer. The patient had upside-down crosses and a Satan's Bible by her bedside. Shirley said that she will never forget what happened. It was the middle of the summer, and yet it was so cold and dark in her room that you couldn't even stand it, even in the middle of the day. She said that it got so evil feeling in there that she had to call a priest to pray with her and her aides before they would even enter the room. When the patient passed away, she had not spoken in over 24 hours. And then all of a sudden, she sat straight up and said, "Satan, take me." And then she fell back on the bed. Shirley said that after she passed, the room got bright and extremely warm. Shockingly, when they moved the patient's body, they had to get rid of the mattress because where her body had been, it looked burnt. And the most horrible smell was emanating from the mattress cover. Needless to say, Shirley went to confession immediately because she did not want an evil spirit around her. A nurse said that one of their patients had a serious recurrence and had to be admitted. Over the course of several nights, he had become quite upset during rounds. He kept asking for his wallet, saying that he had to pay the ferryman. The medical student on rotation in the department took a quarter out of his pocket and put it in the patient's hand. The patient then dropped the coin into the cup on his bedstand and calmed down. Later that night, he passed away quietly. The nurse asked what happened. The medical student, who remembered his Greek mythology, said that the patient had to pay care Aaron, the ferryman, to be taken across the River Styx. A nurse said that he was doing rounds at a hospital. There was one 2-patient room, and one of the patients was a very loud and confused woman who could be quite a handful. On this particular night, she had a roommate who had passed away shortly before the nurse entered the room. She was DNR, so there was no code blue. When he entered the room, he noticed that the elderly lady, who was usually very loud and confused, was sitting quietly with her hands crossed neatly upon her lap. Something was different, and there was this look of serenity on her face. She asked him in a voice that seemed much younger and clearer than before, "Did you see them, young man? They're so beautiful." He said, "No, ma'am, there's no one else here." She said, "They're right next to you, talking to Mrs. Banneker. The angels. They're so beautiful." He said that he instantly felt every hair of his body stand up, and an electric tingle course up and down his spine. "They're not here for me this time," she said sadly.
Today we're going to be talking about some of the absolute worst shark animatronics, most of them underwater. Let's go. This image, I hate it. This guy that's on a dark ride, I don't like this one at all. Here's another version of it when it pops out of the water more. Who did this? Here's another image of the same shark with the track right by it. That is sickening, completely submerged like that. This image completely plagues my nightmares of the Jaws animatronic for the movie. This one's actually super interesting. Her name is Daisy, and she is a shark animatronic that looks super, super realistic. And she is rented out for people to like make movies and stuff of her. But here's an image of her being transported in the water, and she looks kind of goofy. This isn't an animatronic, but this image freaks me out every single time I see it. I'm pretty sure it's CGI, and it is from Deep Blue Sea, the best shark movie ever made. Another Jaws animatronic picture. I hate this one. All the tracks and all the animatronics, some mechanophobia coded. Hate it. This one has braces, and that red eye is freaking me out. Here's one of the Jaws animatronics without face skin if you needed to have nightmares tonight. There you go. These animatronics, oh my god, the fact that they're in the water is so sickening like that. Like, why? Sharks the scariest because of their completely black eyeballs. Like, they have no, like, whites of their eyes. They're just, like, these black, just creepy, creepy eyes. I don't like them. You would have to pay me at least $500 to get on this ride, this Finding Nemo ride. The fact that Bruce sticks his head out like that. Like, look at him side-eyeing, dude. I don't like looking at this picture at all. And, of course, the Jaws animatronic at the Japanese Universal Studios. The worst. The fact that it is huge and it is in that water like that. Hate it. Which one was the worst for you?
This is what would happen if you stopped sleeping. After the first 24 hours, you would feel great, which is because early on, sleeplessness stimulates a part of your brain that causes you to feel happy and energetic. But not long after this 24-hour mark, you'll start to feel sluggish, be forgetful, and appear drunk to other people. After 2 full days of not sleeping, your body would appear to lose all its energy and feel like it's shutting down. Just because your body can't properly metabolize glucose without sleep. After 3 days, your skin would become pale, your eyes would become red, and you'll start to hallucinate. Which means that your worst nightmares are going to appear real right in front of your eyes, kind of like sleep paralysis, but you're awake. And after 2 full weeks, your immune system would be so weak that the common cold would be enough to unalive you. And after 3 full weeks, there's a super high chance that you'll have a heart attack. But let me know, what was the longest you ever went without sleeping?
This married teacher cried as cops arrested her after they found out she had sexually abused a student 45 times. And apparently she had groomed that student since he was 14 all the way up to about age 16. She'll face nearly 60 years in prison if she's convicted and found guilty. Apparently, the teenage student's mother was going through his phone and found disturbing texts between the teacher and her son. She decided to contact the school board and the police to get to the bottom of what's going on. As of today, she has resigned from her teaching job. And then, like I said, there was 45 counts of her and the student engaging in sex and stuff like that. Whether that was in school, before school, at her own home, everything. They found thousands of texts confirming what the boy's mother was saying too. When police confronted her, she claimed that the student was just some sort of stalker that was obsessed with her. And also, the husband had no idea what was going on. He just knew the student as some soccer player at the school. And that's when the text messages got pulled up. As of right now, she's denying any sexual relations with that student. And then they pulled from her notes app and found a memoir of things she was mad about. Apparently, she was mad that the teenage boy was not picking her as the first choice or something like that. She was literally just venting in her notes app about this kid. A 30-year-old grown teacher. Let me know your thoughts.
She was sacrificed by 3 teen boys so that their band could make it big and even inspired the movie Jennifer's Body. Elise Pollard was born on April 26 of 1980 in Arroyo Grande, California. Her parents raised her as a Christian and had a strong connection with their beliefs. On July 22nd of 1995, 15-year-old Elise was reported missing. For about 8 months, no one could find a trace of Elise, and her case went cold. The case opened up when 17-year-old Royce Casey admitted to taking the life of Elise with 2 other teenagers. He led police to mummified remains of Elise at a grave that was only a quarter-mile away from her home. The 2 other teens involved were 16-year-old Jacob and 15-year-old Joseph, and the 3 were all arrested and charged. According to Royce, they picked Elise because she was a blonde, blue-eyed virgin, and they were going to sacrifice her so that their metal band would make it big. Once the boys picked Elise as their victim, they stalked her for weeks and to find the best way they could get her away from school and to hang out with them alone. When they successfully lured Elise away from the school, they took her to a grove with the promise of substances. They attacked her from behind, put a belt around her neck, and strangled her. They all took turns stabbing her when she was left with 12 stab wounds. As these boys were attacking and kicking her body, Elise was praying to God for help and calling out for her mom. Elise eventually bled to death with her 12 stab wounds. But the torture didn't stop there. Once she had passed away, the boys essayed her body. Royce was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 21 years, and it's probably because he confessed to the police. Jacob and Joseph were both sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 26 years. In 2021, Royce was up for parole, and he stated that he was a changed person. He felt remorse. He even got an education while he was in prison, but he was denied. Many think that the movie Jennifer's Body is based on this case. In the movie, Jennifer is taken to the woods by these band members. They end up sacrificing her so that their band can make it big. But in the movie, she becomes a vampire and takes the life of guys.
And we know, man, how these movies and shows will be based off of real true stories, so that's not that far of a leap. It's a chilling case.
Would you ever visit this abandoned park that has a bunch of massive busts of old presidents? You know, I don't think I would. It used to be a lively place, but it closed in 2010, and some guy bought all of the busts and put it on some abandoned land. And it looks like this now. This is horrifying. I don't like this. This is how big a human is in comparison to all of these. That's just sickening. Can you imagine going there after dark in this abandoned area with all these massive... I couldn't do it. Also, this is Abraham Lincoln. If you know, you know. Like jail. Did someone do this on purpose, or was it a weird coincidence? This is kind of cool with all the plants on it. Still terrifying though. I have megalophobia, which is fear of huge things, and then abandoned places mixed together. No, thank you.
Ain't good.
I think George Washington's about to square up. Does anyone know which president this is that's missing the jaw though? This is horrific. But yeah, here's another picture of it. Would you go here? Some of them are missing the top of their heads. They had their wigs snatched. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it'd be cool to go, but also I would be terrified I'd poop.
She found out that her husband was cheating on her, so she cut his private part off. In 2015, Feng Lung from China had found out that her husband was sending emails to another woman. Her husband, Fan, had used her phone to send these emails, but he forgot to log out of his account. Fan was asleep in their bed when this happened, and without thinking twice, Feng grabbed a pair of scissors, walked over to him, and cut his private part off, and it was completely detached from his body. Fan was rushed to the hospital, and doctors were successfully able to reattach it and treat his injuries. Feng was unhappy that the doctors were able to do this, so she snuck into the surgery center and attacked her husband again. She did the same exact thing to Fan, but this time she threw it out the window. There was blood pouring from Fan's groin area, but he still went outside to go look for it. As he was running outside, Feng ran after him to try and attack him again, but that's when he punched her in the face. Hospital staff were able to separate the two, and Fan was treated for his new injuries. Unfortunately for Fan, doctors nor police were able to locate his private part. Feng ended up being arrested and charged with grievous bodily harm.
AI can now officially read your dreams. When you look at anything like this grass field, your brain's neural pathways form a specific pattern, sort of like a heat map. And every possible thing you look at or can even imagine has its own unique pattern. When you dream, your brain behaves much the same way, forming brain frequency patterns based on what you're dreaming about. Well, Asa Raskin from the Center for Humane Technology announced that they've done some tests, and what they discovered is impressive but incredibly alarming. They put a test subject inside an fMRI machine, which can read brain activity, and had them look at an image, in this case an image of a giraffe, and the machine mapped out their brainwave pattern. They then hid the image and fed only the brain map data to an AI image generator, probably a little more advanced than Midjourney. An AI that has never seen the original image of the giraffe, nor had access to an internet database that stored the original image either. It then generated, strictly based on the fMRI brain map data, what it determined that the person was looking at, and this is what it produced. Not exactly the same image, but I don't think you understand what it means that AI can now turn this into that with this level of accuracy. And we're still quite early in this technology, so it's only getting better from here. Then they took it a step further. They showed the test subject in the fMRI machine a video, and on top of generating what the subject is seeing, they also wanted to find out if the AI can read your inner monologue, the words you think to yourself in your own mind that no one else knows about. The test subject watched this video and was told to narrate what was going on in the video inside their own head. Here, let's do it together. You ready? Did you get all that? Now again, given only the subject's brain activity heat map, this is what the AI determined the person was thinking. I see a girl that looks just like me get hit on the back, and then she is knocked off. Probably a bit different than what you thought, but this is literally AI reading our minds, and all it takes is someone's fMRI brain scan data. Our thoughts and dreams can now be leaked to the world. Give it a few more years and this technology will get near perfect. And sure, fMRI machines may look like this today, big, clunky, and all around you, but that technology is also going to improve. What if we have fMRI Apple Vision Pro goggles 10, 20 years from now? You'd be able to see and read what someone is thinking or even dreaming by just looking at them.
That's crazy, man. AI getting to the point where it can read our brains. It can translate the dreams. That's taking that step too far, man. That's giving it way too much access. But you know it's not gonna stop, man, because those AI contracts be coming in, man. It's all about the money, so. But that's a scary thought, man. In my opinion, we need to slow it down just a lot. Not a little bit, just a lot, bro. Kind of set up some safeguards. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you guys comment down below. Hit that thumbs up button, man. Also, don't forget to hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.